Welcome to the Everyday Magic Podcast. I'm Anya Rock.
And I'm Dr. Sophia Trivena.
We've been best friends for 25 years, united by the belief that no matter what life throws at us, we can always find the magic. Join us every week as we dive into our most intimate conversations about sex, money, intuition, and building our company, Sophia, a merger of our names and the best of us.
Hi, Goddess.
Hi.
So you had a big question come up just as we were finishing the last episode. So now we're just going to make a hole.
It's just been burning a hole in me for 20 minutes while I wait for the answer to this burning question.
Okay, so ask the question again.
Okay, so my question is, in our discussion about in this next chapter, you saw the dam, you saw working with this agent, and you said, okay, I just need to manifest $50,000.
Right.
No problem.
Right.
And you did preface with always saying that you know that it's either you or it's not meant to be.
Right.
If it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, either I blocked it or it wasn't meant to be. So I take myself out and wait for the flow of the universe.
Yes.
But
I
just feel like it's a worthwhile conversation about manifestation.
I love this. And it's very interesting because I use the word I need to manifest $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
I so rarely use that word.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how you didn't like the word triggered? I don't like the word manifest.
I am aware that you used it.
It was surprising, right? Because Okay, so I've been paying attention to this for a very long time, trying to understand the physics of the universe and these things, right?
And we can unlock this. I think we can unlock some codes for people because I feel like people really...
I've devoted myself to these codes for decades and did a PhD on it on top of it, of these exact codes. I feel like I love this topic.
Great. When you use that word, specifically, what are you saying?
The word manifest?
Yeah. When you said, I'll manifest $50,000.
Okay, I'll replace the word with the word I would usually use, which is like, I will have $50,000 if I'm meant to do this.
Okay.
So I'm going to call in $50,000. I need to have $50,000 in my bank account for me to do this. So I would say something more specific like that. Mm-hmm. Even when I got the $25,000, I said I would need $25,000 to do this.
Yeah. And I'm open and available to it. I'm
open and available to it, right? If I ever use a word, I like co-create with the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it in. I welcome it. I need to see it in my bank account. Mm-hmm. I need to be able to write a check for this amount. Mm-hmm. Like I'll state and claim the end game. Mm-hmm. I need to be connected with that end game.
If this thing that I want to have happen is meant to happen and it's going to require this amount of money, then if it's in flow, right, if it's meant to happen, I've taken all of my limiting beliefs and all of my sort of blocks out of the way, you would say, then you're open to receiving it.
Right. And so for example, when I got invited to go to New York, I needed a certain amount of money that I also didn't have at the time. And it was a specific amount. And I said, if it was Wednesday and I would have to commit by Friday and travel the next Wednesday or something. So I was like, well, if that amount of money crosses my path before Friday, I'll know I'm meant to go. And exactly the next day on Thursday, I got a surprise check from the evacuating for the fires from my insurance. I had reported that I evacuated, and lo and behold, the exact amount of money to go to New York showed up. And so I used it for that. When I say to the universe, if I get this, I'll do that with it, and then I don't do that with it, not okay. Not okay with me and my relationship with the universe, right? So I went there.
Right. You can't just put it in the bank and be like, well, I'll go next time.
Exactly.
What happens if you do that?
I don't know. I don't mess with that.
Okay.
Is that true? I think there's been...
It feels like the experiment in...
Certainly a time when I was younger when I experimented with that, and it went horribly.
Okay.
Horribly. And I'm trying to remember when, but it's been so long and it was so clear to me that I just don't do it anymore. Okay. But I would have to try to reach for it, because it would have been, when I was doing these kind of experiments where I wouldn't follow guidance, might have been when I was 30, 31, 32, and I'm 51 now. So they're so long ago that I so know the signature of I'm supposed to. Yeah. But I could probably, if I reached for it, come up with the first 3 or 4 times I tried to not do it and how bad it went.
Okay.
So now I have known that there are signatures of things that I'm meant to do that feel expansive. And when I really feel into what I would need to do that, I feel the end state as if it's already happened. And in my memoir, I call it future programming, before I'd ever heard. And I think I don't know if it's before I heard the word manifest, but I always called it future programming, and I had to learn it when I was on this 5-month motorcycle journey in Central and South America at the turn, 2003, because we didn't have a phone, we didn't have anything to find anything. And I'd have to hold the end state energetically of what I wanted to experience, like a warm bed to sleep in, or not getting a knife pulled on us, like crossing the border between Colombia and Ecuador. And I would feel us driving on the other side of the border of Ecuador and driving into safety and finding a warm bed. And I would feel how wonderful that would feel, even though in the reality, I'm sitting on the Colombia side of the border with guns pointed at me without the paperwork to get across and people walking towards us with guns in our faces. But even though that was the experience, I chose to feel safely driving from the other side of the border into a warm, cozy bed. And we would just drive towards the border with the guns coming closer and closer. And I remember just maintaining that feeling. And just as we got to the border without the paperwork, a bus and a taxi hit each other and screeched metal, and everyone ran from the border over to the accident. And we just drove over the border on the motorcycle and drove to freedom. And that's just like one example when I was 30 years old. Then at 32 years old, I got into a situation where I got into a court situation, and if it didn't get dismissed, I was going to be banned from ever being in America again. And I was totally innocent, but the evidence looked otherwise. And I remember talking to 7 lawyers, asking each one, what would I have to have that I would, that this would go away and I could still cross the border from Canada to America? They said the court case would have to be dismissed, but there's no grounds for that. Don't even think about it. And I said, well, I told everyone, and I felt every day I would marinate in the feeling of saying to everyone it was dismissed. And when people go, I'm so sorry what happened to you, I'm like, don't even worry about it. Just future feel me telling you it got dismissed. The day, 4 months later, to go to the court, I went to drive across the border to go, and there was a snowstorm and the whole thing got canceled. And then a few days later, the lawyer wrote me and he's like, you're not going to believe this court case was dismissed. While the snowstorm happened, one of the police officers submitted a report that clearly said that he didn't read your rights before he looked at the evidence, that whatever, and it's dismissed, it doesn't exist anymore, you're fine. I'm like, whoa. Fast forward another little bit, I'm at a music festival and my friend goes, I lost the RV keys. It's 2 a.m, we're dancing. And I'm like, you know what? We don't know where those RV keys, they're floating in the ethers. We're going to go and we're going to find, in the morning, we're going to find a lost and found, and there's going to be a box, and we're going to reach our hand into the box, and the first keys we grab are going to be the keys to the RV. We're just going to make that happen because no one else is holding an end game for those keys except for us. So why don't we make it what we want it to be? It's not hurting anyone for that to happen. Let's see if this works. The next morning I went up to a guard. I was like, is there a lost and found? They're like, that tent over there. I'm like, do you have a box? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, put my hand in with my eyes closed. I reached and grabbed the keys. There were RV keys. Because no one else was holding the reality for those keys. So I held the reality I wanted. I've been experimenting like this for 20 years. My biggest thing I don't want to do is ever go against anything that's against nature or against someone else, or take something from someone that's theirs and make it mine. I really want to be careful about that. And the way that I'm careful about it is I'm like, if this is mine by divine right, and I knew finding the RVs was mine by divine right. So I knew I could make it so. Because why wouldn't it? There's no one that would hurt, right? But things like, I want that job. Oh, but is it someone else's job? Am I supposed to be doing another job? When I've tried to force things that I think I'm supposed to have, and I'm not supposed to have it for some reason I can't imagine, maybe I get the job, but I suffer in the job. And so I'm very careful of if this job is on my path and for the highest for everyone, then please make me still want to have it tomorrow when I wake up. And if it's not for me, remove it from my field. And I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, I don't even want that job anymore. So there's all sorts of ways you can work with the universe to find if something's in your flow or not. And it was really hard for me to be like, I want the end game of $50,000 to work with this agent, when I wasn't convinced that I can't have that naturally by the flow of the universe. And so I asked, show me in the next few days beyond a shadow of a doubt whether I'm supposed to work with this man or not. We had the experience we had last episode, which shows me I'm supposed to. And then now I'm locked in with the end game of I got $50,000 so I can work with him and properly take my work to the next level. And if it doesn't happen, I'd go back in and go, why didn't it happen?
Mm-hmm.
And am I blocking it? Or is it something that I thought I was supposed to have, but I misinterpreted the
Mm-hmm.
message? So
Mm-hmm.
that's just a little glimpse into
Mm-hmm.
my trajectory of working with the co-creation of nature and the universe and the dance of the physical things in life and what's supposed to be ours and not ours and how to.
So where do you think people go wrong with manifestation?
Where do you think I would say?
I think they go wrong in the willing it.
Force
right?
it.
Forcing.
I'm like, don't force the field. Be careful what you wish for. Are you sure you're supposed to have that? Are you sure you want that? Are you sure what you're wanting is going to bring you what you think it's going to bring you?
Right.
Right? That's where a lot of contrived notions of what we want.
Right.
I would say half my early sessions with the angels and clients were people in Silicon Valley that were CEOs that would come to me and say, like one woman was like, I want to make $500,000. And I'd say, well, your angels are saying you're supposed to make $350,000. She's like, that's what I make. I'm like, great, we're done. Like, right? And she's like, well, no, I want to make
11 more sessions.
Right? And I'm like, what do you want to make more for? And she said, other people my age are making that amount. And I'm like, I also get, they have twice the staff and they work way more hours than you. And she's like, well, yeah, but. And I said, I also get you want to have a baby. And she's like, well, yeah, but. And I'm like, so I don't get that you can really double your workload and have a baby. And I also get that you just bought a house. She's like, I did. She's like, but I want a bigger house. I'm like, but I get that you don't need, what would you even do with a bigger house? Like your house is actually really big. Like try to name one thing that would be bigger and better. And she's like, just bigger rooms. And I'm like, for what? And she's like, so you're really telling me I'm where I'm supposed to be? And I'm like, exactly. Go have a baby is what I'm telling you. Like if you're trying to bring something in, have the baby that you want to have that's actually on your path and that you actually have the perfect size job and the perfect size house for, instead of taking your bandwidth and pouring yourself into other things. And I'll have to say, like, I usually am doing readings for people that are around my age. So there was a time where I was reading for a lot of women that were at the birthing age, right? And a lot of women, it was like, you're not meant to have a child. Where did this even come from? Well, my sister has a child and she's older than, or like, whatever, I should be having one, or she's married and I'm the, I'm the older and now my younger sister's getting married. Like, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, these are all contrived notions from society and culture and TV and whatever that told you that you should want this. And now you're trying to force the field to give it to you. And I watched clients force pregnancies and force families and then be like, this is horrible and miserable. I regret having this child. Like, I've seen other people where I've said, you want to be pregnant, but you want to keep working at the amount you're working. It's not going to work. Like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this is, and they would come back and I'm like, finally, they're like, I've had 3 miscarriages. I went against the guidance. What do I do? And I'm like, take a year off and have like, that's the guidance the whole time. And it's just like, everyone keeps trying to force what they think they can do.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a reality that does have limits. We are not able to just work 500 hours a week and raise 4 children and have the biggest house and the biggest salary. Like, where did that ever come from? So there was a whole years where I was just trying to deprogram late 30s, early 40s people from very contrived notions. And now everyone I'm working with is in their 50s and 60s and everyone's past that.
Right.
Everyone already figured that out either on their own.
New set of problems around.
Right. The bigger thing is like, I'm at this final phase of life. I already kind of accomplished a lot. I could retire, but I don't feel done yet. What's my legacy? What's my calling still? How do I still want to manifest, or they would say manifest. I still want to manifest my dream partner. I'm 66 and I still haven't met them or whatever. And then we'll spend literally 12 sessions unhooking them from all their beliefs around relationships. You know what I mean? Right. There's still lots of work to be done.
You said something in there about like, you think you should have that.
Right.
That's a lot of it too, right? Is that we are, I mean, if I just think about sort of the manifestation language in the world and who's using it, it does sort of come from an idea of like, I'm supposed to have that, or I'm supposed
contrived,
to. Yeah, there's
programmed, conditioned.
Yep.
Society says this. My family says that.
And I want it or need.
Right.
Think I need, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that someone comes and they're like, okay, like if you had a client who's like, I need $50,000.
Right.
To manifest this thing that feels like the next right thing for me.
Right.
And I'm not sure how it's going to happen.
Right. I'd be like, let's talk to your angels and find out about this. Right. And it's like, so I would be like, yeah, I get that you're supposed to do, manifest $50,000, but you're feeling there's definitely some scarcity things that people have to work through, or that it's not the right thing to pay for, or they're not sure about it.
Right.
Interestingly, the people I work with are willing to invest 5 figures in working with me. So but there's a very interesting thing. So I was just at this conference with I would say the top movers and shakers in America for business leadership. And she had everyone write down on a piece of paper, what amount of money are you going to make this year? Do you want to make this year? And everyone wrote down their number. And then she said, below that, write down on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you believe you're going to make that amount of money. And on a scale of 1 to 10. And I was like, 12. Like, if I wrote down this number and it felt expansive to me, I have enough experience to know that if I'm being guided to this number, and I've actually decoupled whether a lot of money or a little money is what I need. So I tune into what I need and then I get the number. So I'm like, it's a 12. And out of the room of 60, 70 people, only 2 people raised their hand for having 10. And I said, well, actually I had 12, but me and one other woman raised their hand and no one else put a 10 down. And then there was a bunch of 9s and then a bunch of 8s and then less, right? But very few 7s and 6s. She said, I don't care about the first number you wrote down. You can scratch it off. No one ever needs to see that number. The bigger number for me that I've learned in 40, 50 years of doing what I do, consulting with top business strategists and marketing strategists, is that the number you put down of your confidence level of the dollar amount says everything about you. If you put 10, you will accomplish that number in 8 to 9, 10 months from my experience. If you put number 9, you'll probably accomplish it about a year, maybe 14 months. If you put 8, you might do it in a year and a half. Anything below that, you're probably not going to do it. 9s and 10s are the only ones that should work together, partner. And I was thinking about you and I partnering. And I was like, you would be a 9 or a 10 for sure. And I was thinking about the other women I've tried to partner with and how it fell apart. They would all be 6s and 7s. And she said, it's all about fear. It's all about lack of trust and experience in trusting. It's all about the mind being very involved with all its naysaying and its what ifs. And so she was like, only the mind says you can't do that. And so anyways, it was fascinating to me. So I only work with clients that are 9s or 10s, as I should. She said, if you work with a 6 and you're a 10, you'll probably have to give a refund, which I've had to do once. And that person was a 6. Their fear came in so huge. Right? So, and I just...
Twice you've had to give a refund that I've known you, and both of them were definitely 6s.
Right? Twice. Right. A man and a woman. Right. That's totally
and it was
true.
All about like, well...
Fearful.
It wasn't even fear. It was like skepticism.
Yeah. Which comes from fear.
Right.
When they invested in it, they believed in it. And then all of a sudden they were like,
right.
What did I just put money towards? I don't like, it could go this, it could go, well, what about this? But what about that? But what about, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're nitpicking the process. So we can't even do it. Yeah. So we can't even do it. And I've had hundreds of clients that have invested and never looked back and they got the results. So there is a devotion to the process.
Yeah.
And that's why I put one of my clauses is that I can end it any time. Because as soon as I sniff 6, I'd rather get out and give a refund.
You're a 6, so I'll be offering a refund.
And she said that's what's going to happen. I'm like, well, that's what happened.
And then there were people when you texted me, because you texted me very excitedly, and I was like, yes, great, amazing. But there's a middle, right? That the 8s and 9s.
I don't know what you mean.
When you were in that workshop, you texted me and you were like sharing it, and you said, I think it was 7s and 8s are the ones you do groups and masterminds with.
Yes, that's right.
And
you can still work with them. You can still work with them, but don't do one-on-one with them. You're not going to be the same vibration, but you can work with them in a group setting and provide programs for them to help them get over their fear to become a 9 or 10.
What was the self-learning?
That was when you get down to a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe even a 6. But not working directly with, right? Because you'll end up giving a refund no matter what you offer. They have to go on their own journey.
Yeah.
They're not available to you helping them on the journey.
Right.
7s and 8s are available in a group setting to get raised up to a 9 or 10. Anyway, super interesting,
a lot of this is like, you've got to work on the stories. You've got to work on your own, getting out of your own way. Right. Your mind, your energy.
Yeah.
Right. And
I always say you get a North Star and then you have to do all the work to it, right? So like I got a North Star 8 years ago that I was going to be sitting in front of audiences
channeling. Would that be the guidance? Is the North Star?
Sometimes it's guidance. Sometimes it's a knowing. Sometimes it's a personal, like you always knew you wanted to move to LA. No one guided that. You just knew it. I don't know how you knew it, but you knew it. And it was a North Star that you found your way to, right? A lot of my North Stars are given to me by guidance. I couldn't come up with them. I didn't have a dream to move to LA, but I was told for years and years I was going to move here. Right. And everyone that did a reading for me or used their intuition saw me in LA. And I was like, why? Why? I don't want to go there. Why? I don't want to go to America, let alone LA.
Hang out with your bestie.
If someone would have seen that, that would have been a lot better.
You're like, why didn't you tell me that? I would have moved there earlier.
Right? I'd be like running to LA, setting up house. Like no one told me that. I was like, what am I doing there? Why am I sitting in that city? What's going to happen? But when I was, a lot of the glimmers I'm given of when I close my eyes and see that I'm going to be vegan. I don't want to be vegan. I'm going to move to LA. I don't want to move to LA. Then I'm going to channel in front of audiences. I like doing one-on-one. Like all of it, I'm like, this is great. Why do I have to change anything? Right? So I am usually like, what? And I'm 51. So I know that when I actually try it on, I'm surprised at what a wonderful and fun idea it is. Like when I came to LA and just went out for the day to give it a try after my sister talked me into it, Jocelyn, for 3 hours, she was like, please don't leave. Just go and give it one day. Please just walk out to the streets and see what happens. And all sorts of magic and wonderful. And welcome to LA. Let me buy you a free lunch. Come and also let you sit by the swimming pool, even though we don't let that. Come anytime. We'll take great care of you. This is your home away from home. I was like, oh, this city just opened its arms to me. I'm not going anywhere, right? So like before I push it away, try it on and see if it welcomes me. And it always does. And then I go on the journey of getting my PhD or moving to Hawaii. And I'm like, Hawaii is actually awesome. And like, right? But I'm like, I don't want to leave Canada. I already got a degree. Why do I have to get another one?
Do you think that that's like, because I mean, I'm looking at the card plant yourself here too, right? I think that we as humans, like, we don't want to change. It's like, I'm comfortable. I want to plant myself right here.
I've gotten to a place so many times professionally and community-wise that if I stopped there and did nothing else, I would have done more than most people do in their life and could retire easily with barely working because I had accumulated so much human capital and connections and clout and a good business model. And every time I'm guided to leave it and start all over again, like 5 times. So I'm like, is the goal
change?
So the angels told me that one of the main reasons I'm here and in this life to experience is that change is the only real thing. And I never get to settle into. I know that you create your reality too. I know that you set your mind to something. This is what our investors have all said to us, that we've had women give cold hard cash and their heart and belief in us because they're like, when you guys set your mind to something, we know, even though no one knows how. We just know if you two are going to do this, something's going to happen. Why do they know that about you? What is your recipe for knowing it's something you're supposed to make happen?
Right.
And that you trust? Like, because you do it too.
I do it too. Yeah.
You're 10. What do you think? What number would you put, do you think?
Not the number I'm going to make, but the number. I'd put a 10.
I think I was wondering maybe 9, but I feel like 10. Yeah.
Depends on the day.
Right.
Yeah. Today I put a 10.
Okay, good.
But I might, depending on the day, like some days I can take on the world. Some days I'm like, I got to use my practices to get to that place. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. I would say that I knew that you wouldn't be below a 9. I was like, you would be between 9 and 11.
Yeah. How do I make the magic? I mean, I think that some of this without having the language is similar of understanding and being in instinct. In trust. Gosh, I mean, I think about like deciding to move to New York City.
You were we were in Toronto. No one had left Canada.
I was like, bye.
All of a sudden, Anya in her 20s has gone to New York solo by herself. I was like jaw on the floor.
And I was telling the story to someone. It's because I remember that one of our good friends had connected me with someone and I was getting a bunch of commercial auditions and I was like, this is fun. Like
in Toronto?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love this. Like
you love the camera. I was like,
I want to do this. You read a book at a cafe all day and then you go to an audition and you make a bunch of money. This looks amazing. So fun. I want to do that. Like, and I did. Yeah. I love the camera. And so I was booking a bunch of commercials and I was like, I want to do more. Like I want to do film. I want to do more, like get me an audition for that TV show. And my agent said, I can't. You don't have any like legit theater background. You didn't go to school. And I was like, okay, well, I'll start looking at schools.
That's what happened?
Yeah.
And I never knew this.
Started looking, and I was like, there's a couple local Toronto schools. And it was like, I feel like maybe there was a toxic boyfriend in there that I was like ready. There was a restlessness about Toronto that I was ready to move on from.
I can see that.
And a little bit of like knowing, as I have done also a few times, like knowing if I stay with this crowd, if I stay in this thing, it's not actually going to be great for me. So I need to sort of, I keep going to the party and keep hanging out with this crowd. I don't really like the future casting that shows me. I remember getting my first dog and being like, I'd be like, I need to leave the dog we met through.
Yes.
Parker, the worst dog in the park.
The worst dog in the park, except for my dog.
And I would like leave the party to go walk the dog. And I was like, it was so nice to have something to come home to, a warm, like my buddy. Like I was like, I can't stay tonight late because I've got to go walk the dog. I got to go home to my dog. And that was like early 20s, that kind of like desire to be nesting, to be, have a little home life. Anyway, back to the theater. So I'm like, as I do, researching online at the time. I don't know that I can still see like the phone that was attached to a wall, and I'm like on a computer.
I totally remember, just as an aside, I remember you being at my house and I had the phone into the wall and the phone was ringing and I was talking to you and you're like, answer your phone. I'm like, I don't answer my phone. And I kept talking to you. You're like, your phone's ringing. I'm like, I know, but I'm here with you. And you're like,
landline too.
Yeah. And you're like, answer your phone. I'm like, I don't answer my phone. And to this day, I still don't have notifications. I still don't answer my phone. And you're like, all about your notifications.
I'd be like, just turn the ringer off then. I should have been like, remember the big Bell Canada?
I don't even think that we could turn the ringer off. Could we turn the ringer off?
Yes, totally. You could turn the ringer off.
I don't think we could.
I think we could.
We couldn't, because I would have. I didn't like the ringer. Yeah. I would have turned it off. I just ignored it. Anyways.
So suddenly I was like, well, I could just go to the best theater school in New York.
Okay, so I was going to say, you have always been top shelf. You've always been like, what's the best? So yes.
I was like, why am I going to stay here and go to Ryerson?
Right.
And sort of, I could just, and I am American. I was born in the States.
Right.
Living in Canada. And so as it unfolded, so I went for I went for the summer. That was the start. I went for the summer program and I guess manifested, right? The money to go. And I really just kind of was like, I don't know again that I had the language for it at the time, but I was like,
I certainly didn't have the language.
Happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Okay. So you know what this is? There's something about this. I know it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen.
Right.
There's something about that signature without the word manifest or co-create or whatever that I feel like everyone has some notion of that. They're like, even if it's like, I knew I was going to have a baby. I knew when I saw her, she was my partner. I knew when I saw an ad for this, I was going to be there one day. Mm-hmm. People have these knowings without all of this language, right?
We were talking about it. It's interesting because I'm thinking about it in terms of some of the guidance I've gotten recently. And I'm very much in the I don't know, right? And I'm waiting for the signature of like, I know this is going to happen.
Same with me and the agent. Is like being comfortable. I talk about it in my memoir with the I don't know place. But that doesn't mean you close down the inquiry. It means the box is open for more data to go into until the I know pops out and the box closes.
Like if this is meant for me, show me.
Yeah, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I want to know in the next few days. This is what I said to you by the swimming pool when I was miserable and trying to figure this out. I was like, I'm too miserable to really get clear and to ask the angels. So I just want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt. And he and I agreed that we would talk in 2 weeks. And so now we're at the 1 week mark, right? So I was like, by the time I need to talk to him, I either need to have the answers. So bring it however you bring it. And they did in this last episode that we did. So there's something about, I don't know that you can live and not try on that signature of, I just know I'm supposed to do it. And then it worked.
And it's also a signature of like, what is that saying? Like only people who believe in magic find it.
Sure.
I'm going to just keep moving in the direction and believing it's going to happen and believing that the podcast is going to come together. We're going to find an incredible production team that we're somehow going to make it happen on this date that we picked that feels impossible.
Well, then we didn't pick.
Right.
We got told to launch the podcast on Valentine's Day and we had nothing.
Right.
And it was 6 weeks.
Right.
And and we went in and said, what can we know?
Right.
And I was like, I get that it's through your network that we'll find the producer. It's not for me to do anything, that you have to do it. And then you did. And like every step that we've made, we were like, what is on the path? What is on the path? And it's not just to be told, but it's so that we make sure that we're in the flow of the best of what can happen without us contriving what we think is supposed to happen, which is inefficient, which is actually inefficient.
And there's a familiar feeling that I have right now, and I think probably people resonate with, of like, there's a puzzle that I can't quite fit together. I don't know where the pieces go. And so I just have to like stop trying to figure it out.
You know, this is the mystery that we felt when we went to Panama together. We could feel something brewing, a transformation, but it wasn't through a program. It wasn't through understanding. It was just being and letting the springs unwind and the sadness come up and the putting down of all the things we've been carrying. Like we couldn't have named it, but there is an organic journey to things. And that's why I'm so comfortable with the I don't know place. Like that's in the I don't know place right now, which does not mean it's not being addressed or pursued or whatever, but it's filling in, it's light pixels and it's getting more pixels and more pixels and more pixels. And then I'm like, there's the picture, right? And you're in that with a bunch of things, like a bunch of things. You're like, the whole relationship thing is a bit amorphous. Like what me and the kids do next as a family and the schools, but
and they feel huge. They feel like really big.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all have these things in our life where we're like, oh, I'm trying. There's all these big, maybe because we have a glimmer or we have guidance or we have a knowing, or for me, it came from like, something is not working and I don't quite know how to fix it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
And our system wants to fix it right away.
Right.
And the mind really wants to fix it right away.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we have to let the mind be in the service of the process to respond to the pieces given to us as they're given to us.
Right.
The inquiry then becomes the North Star of the journey, but we still have to allow the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to practice taking ourselves out of the way.
Otherwise, we're controlling it into what we think and want, which limits the possibilities. Right?
Right. So there's almost like
the dance of what we use our mind for and how we get our mind out of the way against the process.
Right. So what people call manifestation, this co-creation, is a dance of getting myself, my stories, my conditioning, my contrived nature out of the way.
Letting the field show you the glimmers of the possibilities for the desires you have.
Right.
And then going on the journey towards those desires.
What's possible for me.
Yes.
And do you ever, like I sometimes think, like when I was looking for a house in California, I was like, lots of people are like, put up a vision board, do this. I'm like, I just want a feeling. I want to walk in and know there's a feeling that's a signature, right? So moving toward a feeling as much as people would look toward a vision.
Sure. That's why we go on dates or have the experiences. Just be like, how am I going to feel when I'm sitting across from this person? How does it feel when I'm in the car with them? How does it, like, you need to kind of go on the journey. You can't just be like, he's my boyfriend or I'm not going out with him. I mean, unless you do, but like sometimes you need to go on the journey.
Yeah.
So someone I knew called it living into it. He's like, you've done as much as you can with what your mind knows and what your intuition can tell you. I'm like, but I still don't know. And he's like, then you got to live into it. Go on the experiential journey of it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what I love is watching what comes up in the new moon because the new moon energy is showing you in the field what's available for your soul path, your development, what wants to be let go of, what wants to come in. So I really pay attention to those days and then I follow the moon cycle of like how it develops over time. And there's parts of the moon cycle where you're supposed to really be active, parts where you're supposed to just kind of watch what happens.
Do you remember what your new moon guidance was this month? Because we just started the full moon today.
Today's right. Yeah, it was to fill my dance card with masculine experiences. And I didn't know what that meant. But if you think about it, since the new moon, I have probably entertained either through conversation or being asked out or whatever, 5 or 6 different possibilities with men. All of them ended up being a no, but I have been filling my dance card. So that was my guidance. How about you? Do you remember?
So I wasn't on our goddess call, but I do remember watching the call, the video later, and I was with my kids. And I remember the experience of the dance of motherhood. And
I remember, yeah. Letting them have their journey while you have your journey was another big theme.
Yep. And also, I almost had a takeaway of like, they're going to be disappointed no matter what you do.
That's what my thing was. Another one of my takeaways is that you're going to have to do you. Right. And other people aren't going to be happy about it, but let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
I didn't know that it was going to be with a close family member after they saw one of my podcast episodes.
Yeah.
That was my version of it. And I was like, whoa. Right. And I wanted to go in and manage it and fix it. And I actually got the opposite. I said, let's take a few months apart to process on our own. Mm-hmm. So that's because of the new moon. The new moon told me, fill your dance cards and go on the experience with men rapidly. But in the family, like you guys got children, I don't have children. I didn't know what my version of that was going to be, but someone really close is going to be not happy with you and your choices. And that's got to be okay. Can you stay in your lane and let them have their journey?
Right.
And keep the door open for it resolving itself without you going in and managing it.
Mm-hmm. So now on the full moon, you've had those glimmers. Now you reflect. And is it being shown to you
So what I feel like the new moon shows you is the curriculum for the month, right? And then the next few days is the inspiring connections where a whole bunch of things show up in the field to develop those themes. And I met a bunch of men over that next phase. And then the next one is sovereign strength, where you have to like really be strong. And that's where I said no to a bunch of men. And that's also where I had to tell this person where we had the falling out to be like, let's take our space. So I had to stand strong in what I knew with both these men and with this family member. And then the next part was the allowing rooting, which is like allow things to shift now that you've let a whole bunch of information come in and possibilities and also stood firm. Now let things shift. And that's when he agreed, let's take the time apart. That's when these men agreed, okay, I'll kind of step away. And this other man came forward. And then the full moon now is with all of that. Take your hands off the steering wheel of life. See what shows up because it's the result of all those choices. This man I'm going out with on Saturday night is happening in the full moon phase. What else might happen? I don't know. It's day one. And the full moon phase is always 4 days with the last day ending on the actual full moon.
Yeah.
So we have 4 days for the field to show us what gets produced by the last couple of weeks of choices and belief alterations and standing strong for our truth in circumstance. Now we get to see what that's resulted in, what the universe is going to produce for us.
Right.
Interesting, right?
Yep. The co-creation dance.
I love co-creation. I love creation more so than manifest. I need to create or call in or co-create with the universe this. I love that way more because manifestation, I feel like it's been co-opted into I'm going to control or I'm going to force or I can have anything I want. Right. And I want it to be like I want to be in the current of life, in the harmony with all of nature.
Right. Yeah. I want to be in the flow.
Beautiful topic. I think a really, really important one.
Yeah.
And definitely one that we both do well, I think, organically and with the overlay of understanding that we keep gaining with the years. But yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about this.
Me too.
Why don't we wrap it up with saying something that we feel called to co-create that maybe we haven't talked about, just one last little glimmer.
Okay, you first. Okay. Us co-create. Yeah.
Why don't we see if there's one more little gem we can tune into, actually.
All right.
But let's receive it from the universe. What is a glimmer of creation that the universe wants to do with both of us? We each get one for ourselves.
Okay.
Beautiful.
What'd you get?
I'm getting to go first, yeah. I saw instantly the harp in my office room, and I saw like how ethereally beautiful and harmonious I feel when I play it, and how there was a man there watching it, but he was the same signature of that feeling. And then we had a romantic night where that energy of that feeling was the signature of him and me and the two of us. It's like the harmony of the harp. It's like our signature is the harp. Like, beautiful. I was like, whoa, that would be a beautiful date. I'd love a date like that. And then I opened my eyes and you were still in there. And I was like, well, why don't I ask for her? What would she get? And I saw sort of like a desk in your home with like push pins and things organized, and I saw like everything getting organized, but it was like schools and home and X and the family reconfiguring to where it is meant to be, where it will thrive in the next, chapter. And I was like, oh, is there like, this is common, like it's my version and your version of domestic bliss. Like that's my version of domestic bliss, and this is and that we both get that together. And then it reminded me like, a key to knowing if something is intuition is like the more you tune into it, the more information it gives you. Whereas if it's just your mind, the more you tune into it, it poofs away. Little trick. So I was like, I'll just keep getting as much information as I can until you come open your eyes. So then I was like, oh, I should mention that little tip when I open my eyes. But yeah. Okay, that's what I got. How about you?
Well, I saw this weekend, I'm going up to be with the horses, which I'm so excited about.
So excited for you.
Yeah. And remember that my astrologer was like, on this full moon, you really feel like the signature of your medicine. And I'm going into this huge creative chapter, luckily also the chapter of writing my book. So she was like, there's so many things happening astrologically to make this right. So I just kind of felt that like there's a real poignancy of going to the desert this weekend. And I just like felt that oneness. And sometimes I'll have a glimpse of something where I'm like, there's just this place where there's a lot of light. And I don't know what that is yet, but there's just a lot of light in the home that I'm in, or the place that I am, where I feel that oneness.
I love that. That feels different than the home that you're in right now. It feels kind of shaded in your place. Like not bright, but interesting.
Yeah.
I love this. Well, domestic bliss. We're leaving with the glimmer of domestic bliss. So why don't we just hold that North Star and the end game that we look at each other, like I said, dismissed.
Yeah.
This is the future programming. Let's future program that we are out for a beautiful dinner and we are toasting sparkling water with beautiful lime and lemon juice in it. And we say to each other, we did it. We're in domestic bliss.
Great.
Can't wait.
Me too.
Thanks, Goddess.
Thank you.
Beautiful journey.
Always. Thanks for being on the journey with us. We'd love to have you as part of the ongoing conversation. Join us on our socials at Sophia Beauty and join our email community at sophiabeauty.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.